There's a reason why people call Sophie Cunningham MAGA Barbie, and people are starting to fill the arenas to watch her and Caitlin Clark. She's not apologizing for saying that there should be no men in this woman's sport. It's caused an absolute crisis, and people are losing their mind. Photo of BRITTNey Griner with a full beard after being released from a Russian prison.
The WNBA's BRITTNey Griner is a man.
BRITTNey Griner files for divorce from wife.
That's not a woman. That's not a female. That's not even a trans person. That is a man.
Every player should be subjected to a DNA test to prove that they're women.
BRITTNey Griner is, in fact, a man.
What happens when one outspoken commentator, one controversial WNBA debate, and one viral moment collide at exactly the wrong time? Suddenly, the conversation is no longer just about basketball. Benny Johnson has jumped into a growing storm surrounding the WNBA, Sophie Cunningham, Caitlin Clark, and questions about how the league handles controversial opinions and fan reactions.
Again, cultural power. This is why the WNBA this is not going to go away. This issue is not going to go away. They're in such a bad position here. Caitlin Clark, they have cultural power. People love them. People are buying tickets that would never care about the WNBA.
Caitlin Clark is an absolute all-star. She is the Michael Jordan of this. This is the girl that girls have been waiting for forever.
Caitlin Clark is a rising star in women's basketball. She's pulling in crazy viewership numbers.
These women spent $1,000 on tickets to attend the Indiana Fever versus Atlanta Dream game, specifically to see Sophie Cunningham.
But beneath the headlines is a much bigger question. Is the WNBA creating more confusion by refusing to clearly explain its policies? As criticism spreads across social media and fans demand answers, every new statement seems to push the controversy even further. And now, with Caitlin Clark's enormous influence and Sophie Cunningham at the center of the debate, the pressure on the league is becoming impossible to ignore. But what exactly happened? And why has this story exploded so quickly?
A woman decided to stand up for women and female spaces. And that woman is now getting lambasted by other women because she doesn't support transgender people in female spaces. Sophie Cunningham, who many of you will probably know from this video, recently got herself in hot water because she had the audacity to say that women and girls should be protected.
For years, the WNBA has existed in a strange space where the sport itself often gets overshadowed by the debate surrounding it. But this time, the conversation feels different because several major storylines have collided at once. At the center of that storm are Benny Johnson, Sophie Cunningham, and Caitlin Clark. What began as criticism over women's sports and fan expression quickly became a much larger argument about the direction of the league and whether its leadership is doing enough to communicate its policies clearly.
Reason why people call Sophie Cunningham MAGA Barbie, and people are starting to fill the arenas to watch her and Caitlin Clark.
WNBA star Sophie Cunningham, who plays guard for the Indiana Fever, when an ESPN feature quoted her opposition towards biological men competing in women's sports. She said she wanted to protect young girls, both on court as well as in the locker room, calling her position kind of common sense. It has everything to do with reality.
Sophie Cunningham has become one of the most talked about personalities in the WNBA, not simply because of what she does on the court, but because she has been willing to express opinions that generate intense reactions. Her comments about protecting women's sports placed her directly in the middle of a national debate. Supporters viewed her position as a straightforward defense of female athletes, while critics argued that the conversation was far more complicated than a simple division between men and women. Then came the fan controversy. Reports circulated about spectators wearing shirts carrying a message supporting women and women's sports.
Women's league, run by women, decided a shirt wearing saying "for the girls" was too offensive. Meanwhile, State Farm Arena put up a pro-trans message on the big screen, but won't allow the shirt, the state's basic biological. What is so offensive or scary about this message? The genetic message of gender, the genetic message of biological sex. Wow, the WNBA doesn't know what a woman is, but the shirts that reference the XX chromosomes are banned from game.
According to the account presented in the original discussion, some fans were told to cover the shirts or leave the area. Whether every detail of the incident has been accurately represented or not, the reaction was immediate. Social media transformed what might have been a small arena security issue into a national argument about free expression, consistency, and whether sports venues should be applying their rules equally. And that's where Benny Johnson entered the conversation.
BRITTNey Griner's voice.
I believe what you said was effing white girl. Is it possible that's what you said?
No, would never say that.
BRITTNey Griner called Caitlin Clark trash and effing white girl. Trash, effing white girl.
BRITTNey Griner, who I can't stand, sad that she's a Baylor grad. She called her a trash expletive white girl. That was the lip reading. Yes, trash white girl.
Johnson's commentary focused heavily on what he viewed as a double standard. His argument was essentially that professional sports organizations cannot claim they want to avoid politics while simultaneously allowing certain political or cultural messages to receive favorable treatment. Whether viewers agree with that argument is another question, but there is no denying that it gave the controversy another major boost. The timing was especially important because Caitlin Clark had already changed the scale of attention surrounding women's basketball. Her popularity has introduced enormous numbers of casual fans to the WNBA, and every controversy involving the league now has a much larger audience watching. A disagreement that once might have remained inside a basketball community can now become a national social media story within hours. That's why Cunningham's role matters. She isn't simply another player making a comment. She has become part of a larger cultural conversation that includes Clark's popularity, fan expectations, and the league's response to controversial subjects. But there's another important distinction that needs to be made. Strong opinions are not the same thing as proven facts. As the discussion expanded online, claims involving other WNBA players, including BRITTNey Griner, began circulating rapidly. Some of those claims were based on speculation and social media commentary rather than verified evidence. That distinction matters because once an allegation becomes viral, people can start treating repetition as proof. The more interesting question, therefore, isn't whether every rumor on the internet is true. It's whether the WNBA can communicate its actual rules clearly enough that rumors don't fill the information gap. And this is where the league finds itself under pressure. Fans want to understand what standards are being applied. Players want to know where the boundaries are. And viewers who are spending money on tickets want to feel that the rules are being enforced consistently. If those questions aren't answered clearly, commentators like Benny Johnson will continue to have an opening to criticize the league. Meanwhile, Caitlin Clark remains one of the biggest forces driving attention toward women's basketball. Her presence means the WNBA doesn't have the luxury of assuming controversies will simply disappear. Every statement is amplified. Every security decision can become a headline. And every disagreement can attract an audience far beyond traditional basketball fans. So the real battle may not be between one commentator and one sports league. It may be over who gets to define the conversation surrounding women's basketball. And with the controversy continuing to grow, the next question becomes even more important. What happens when the league's policies themselves become the story? The controversy didn't slow down once Benny Johnson entered the conversation. In fact, his involvement helped transform an already heated WNBA debate into something much larger. Instead of focusing only on one player's comments or one incident inside an arena, the discussion began moving toward a bigger question. Does the WNBA have a clear and consistent approach when controversial issues collide with professional basketball? That question became especially powerful because Caitlin Clark's popularity has changed the league's audience. Fans who may not have followed the WNBA closely in previous years are now paying attention to every major storyline. They are watching games, buying tickets, following players online, and reacting to controversies in real time. That means league decisions that once might have received limited attention can now become national talking points almost instantly. Benny Johnson's criticism centered on that growing disconnect. His commentary suggested that the league cannot expect to control the conversation simply by avoiding political controversy. Once fans feel that different messages are being treated differently, they begin asking why. And when those questions aren't answered quickly, social media fills the silence. That's exactly what happened here. The debate over fan apparel became a major part of the conversation. Supporters argued that fans should be able to express opinions about women's sports as long as they aren't disrupting the game or violating legitimate venue rules. Critics, however, questioned whether certain messages could create an uncomfortable environment for other spectators. The important issue isn't necessarily which side someone supports. It's whether the rules are clear before the controversy begins. If a venue has restrictions on political or advocacy-related clothing, those restrictions should ideally be explained and applied consistently. If certain messages are permitted while others are restricted, fans naturally want to understand the reasoning. And if security personnel make a mistake, the organization has to explain what happened rather than allowing speculation to dominate the story. This is where the WNBA's growing popularity becomes both an opportunity and a challenge. Caitlin Clark has brought unprecedented attention to the league. Her deep three-point shooting, passing ability, competitiveness, and connection with younger fans have made her one of the most recognizable names in women's basketball. But enormous popularity also creates enormous scrutiny. Every disagreement involving Clark attracts attention. Every controversy involving her teammates attracts attention. And every decision made by the league can become part of a much larger conversation. That's why Sophie Cunningham has become such an interesting figure in this story. Whether people agree with her opinions or not, she has demonstrated that players can influence conversations beyond the basketball court. Her comments have forced fans to discuss issues involving women's sports, competitive fairness, locker room concerns, and the role of athletes in cultural debates. But there is a danger when the conversation moves too far away from verifiable information. As the controversy expanded, online users began connecting unrelated claims and bringing other players into the discussion. BRITTNey Griner became one of the names mentioned repeatedly across social media. However, the allegations circulating about Griner's identity were not established by the material presented in the original discussion. They were described as unverified rumors and online speculation. That distinction cannot be ignored. A viral post isn't automatically evidence. A commentator repeating a claim doesn't automatically make it true. And an edited photograph or social media argument cannot replace reliable documentation. Ironically, this may actually strengthen the broader argument for transparency. When institutions communicate poorly, speculation has more room to grow. When rules and facts are clearly explained, there is less space for rumors to take over. So instead of allowing the conversation to become a competition over who can make the most shocking accusation, the WNBA has an opportunity to bring the discussion back to concrete issues. What are the league's eligibility policies? How are those policies enforced? What are the rules governing fan apparel? How does arena security determine whether a message violates those rules? And are those standards applied consistently? Those are questions that can actually be answered. Meanwhile, Benny Johnson's involvement has ensured that the controversy is no longer confined to traditional WNBA audiences. His audience is much broader, meaning the debate has crossed into a completely different media environment. And that creates another challenge for the league. Ignoring criticism doesn't make criticism disappear. In today's media landscape, controversy can continue growing even when officials refuse to engage with it. The more people feel that they're being ignored, the more likely they are to search for their own explanations. That's why this situation could ultimately become bigger than Sophie Cunningham, bigger than Benny Johnson, and even bigger than one particular game. The real issue is trust. Fans want to trust that the league knows its own rules. Players want to trust that those rules protect the integrity of competition. And the WNBA needs fans to trust that its decisions are based on consistent standards, rather than whichever controversy happens to be trending that day. Caitlin Clark's rise has given the league an enormous opportunity. But that opportunity comes with responsibility. The larger the audience becomes, the more important transparency becomes. And if the WNBA doesn't provide clear answers, someone else will continue filling the silence. That's exactly why Benny Johnson's criticism has become such a powerful part of this story, and why the next development could determine whether this controversy fades away or becomes one of the league's biggest public relations battles of the season. But this is where the story takes an even more important turn. Because once the conversation moves beyond Benny Johnson, Sophie Cunningham, and the individual controversy, the WNBA faces a much bigger challenge: rebuilding trust with an audience that is now paying closer attention than ever before. Caitlin Clark's rise has changed the equation. She has attracted fans who may never have followed women's professional basketball closely before. Those fans aren't only watching the games. They're watching the league itself. They're examining decisions, questioning policies, and discussing everything from officiating to player relationships and fan treatment. That means the WNBA can no longer assume that controversial stories will disappear after a few days. Every controversy now has the potential to become a national conversation. And that's why the league's response matters so much. One of the most important lessons from this entire situation is the difference between criticism and misinformation. Fans are allowed to disagree with league policies. Commentators are allowed to challenge decisions. Players are allowed to express opinions within the rules that govern their workplace. But accusations involving individual athletes require a much higher standard. The online discussion surrounding BRITTNey Griner is a perfect example. Claims about her identity have circulated widely, but the source material itself acknowledges that these claims are unverified. That means they should not be presented as established facts. This distinction is critical. A controversy can be discussed without turning speculation into certainty. In fact, separating verified information from online rumors makes the overall argument stronger, not weaker. If someone believes the WNBA should have clearer eligibility policies, that argument can stand on its own. If someone believes fans should be allowed to wear certain messages inside arenas, that argument can be debated on its own. If someone believes league officials have handled a controversy poorly, that criticism can be examined through documented decisions. None of those arguments require unverified allegations about an individual player. And that may be the most important point moving forward. The WNBA has an opportunity to take control of the conversation by communicating clearly. Instead of allowing social media personalities to define what the league's policies mean, officials can explain the rules themselves. Instead of leaving fans to interpret inconsistent information, the league can provide straightforward explanations. That would benefit everyone. Players would know exactly where the boundaries are. Fans would know what is permitted. Arena staff would have clearer instructions. And commentators would have fewer opportunities to argue that the league is hiding information. At the same time, the league needs to recognize something else. Fans are part of the business. They buy tickets.
They purchase merchandise. They watch games.
They create the atmosphere inside arenas. And when those fans feel ignored or unfairly treated, they can make their frustration public very quickly. That doesn't mean every fan should be permitted to behave however they want. Professional arenas need rules. Security personnel need authority to enforce those rules. Players and spectators deserve protection from genuine harassment or disruption. But consistency is crucial. If the league wants to avoid accusations of favoritism, it needs standards that are understandable and applied consistently. That's where the current controversy could actually become an opportunity. Instead of treating criticism as an enemy, the WNBA could use it as a reason to improve communication. The league could explain its policies, clarify expectations, and make sure fans understand the difference between legitimate disagreement and conduct that crosses the line. And Caitlin Clark's presence makes this more important than ever. Clark isn't simply another popular player. Her visibility has expanded the audience for women's basketball. Her success has created new commercial opportunities and introduced millions of viewers to the league. But her popularity also means that every controversy surrounding the WNBA receives additional attention. The league is now operating under a much larger microscope. Sophie Cunningham's outspoken personality adds another layer. Benny Johnson's commentary adds another. Social media adds another. Put all three together, and even a relatively small dispute can become a national headline. That's why the WNBA's next move matters. Will the league continue reacting to controversies after they explode? Or will it start explaining its policies before controversies happen? That difference could determine how fans view the organization in the future. Because ultimately, this isn't just about one commentator. It isn't just about one player. And it isn't just about one controversial incident. It's about whether a rapidly growing professional sports league can manage its new level of attention without losing the trust of the people watching it. Caitlin Clark has helped put women's basketball under an enormous spotlight. Sophie Cunningham has demonstrated how quickly an athlete's comments can ignite a cultural debate. Benny Johnson has shown how powerful outside commentary can become when a league is already facing questions. Now the WNBA has a choice. It can allow the controversy to continue being defined by viral clips, social media arguments, and competing narratives. Or it can step forward with clear information, consistent standards, and transparent communication. The second option would give everyone something they desperately need: clarity. And perhaps that's the real story here. The biggest threat to a professional sports league isn't necessarily criticism.
It's confusion.
When people don't understand the rules, they create their own explanations. When they don't trust the explanations, they search for alternatives. And when those alternatives spread online, controlling the narrative becomes almost impossible. So whether you agree with Benny Johnson, Sophie Cunningham, or the critics of their positions, one thing is clear: the conversation surrounding women's basketball has become much bigger than a single game. The spotlight is brighter. The audience is larger. And the expectations are higher. The WNBA now has an opportunity to prove that it can handle that pressure. Because Caitlin Clark and the next generation of women's basketball stars deserve a league where the basketball remains at the center of the story, and where fans can understand the rules without having to rely on rumors to figure them out. And if the league gets that balance right, this controversy could eventually become less of a crisis and more of a turning point. If you enjoyed this breakdown, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more WNBA news, controversies, and the biggest stories shaping women's basketball. What do you think about Benny Johnson's criticism, Sophie Cunningham's role in the debate, and the WNBA's handling of these controversies? Do you believe the league needs to be more transparent about its rules and policies? Let us know your opinion in the comments below. And if you think other basketball fans should hear this conversation, share this video with them. Turn on notifications so you don't miss our next update, because the story may be far from over. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.